Before the siblings sever their ties, Teresa says to Joe Gorga on RHONJ, "You broke the whole family," and demands that he honor me. Despite the comments made on Reunion Part 3, including Teresa Giudice calling Melissa Gorga a gaslighting bitch, Joe Gorga didn't fully rule out a reconciliation. "I will never say never. My only sister is you." Officially, Teresa Giudice has had enough. The Real Housewives of New Jersey's third and final reunion show aired on Tuesday, and despite everything that was said, Teresa's brother Joe Gorga was still open to making amends afterwards. "Teresa, what do you have to say?" Joe queried. "None," she answers. "I'm devastated. Informed you. I'm not going to say never. My only sister is you. You have my ire because I am not pleased with you. I'll adore you forever. Tomorrow if you were in a car accident, I'd be going to the hospital by your side. If something occurs, I'll pick you up if you're unwell," Joe said. "No," as she waved him off, Teresa said. Joe said, "See, this is why it can never be. You honor me when I'm alive, not after I'm dead, as Daddy said. Now, honor me right now." In one of the episode's many dramatic moments on Tuesday night, Teresa sobbed. Louis Ruelas was asked to respond to the pajama remark he made to Joe earlier in the season by host Andy Cohen at the beginning of the episode. In a March episode, Louis stated that he wore Joe and Teresa's late father's pajamas to bed every night to help Teresa's daughters feel safe. "I don't sleep in the same jammies as their father." Louis corrected himself to Andy, then turned to Joe and addressed him directly. "Teresa, there were bags of clothing that never made it to your father while she was cleaning out her home. One night, I took one of the sweatshirts and dressed wonderfully for your sister and the girls. When I uttered the remark, 'I'm sorry for saying that, but it sounded eerie, I'm wearing your dead father's pajamas,' but that's not what actually happened." Louis continued by claiming that he tried to get in touch with Joe in so many different ways because he wanted to be brother-in-law. Joe replied, "Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I really want to believe you, but every time I do, you let me down." Joe also mentioned how well connected they were before Louis. "She was the best after that when she returned from prison. She was modest. We spoke frequently. I ranged her." Joe gushed, "I loved that. I asked, didn't I call you every day?" Teresa instantly shut him down. She said, "Because we were filming." "What?" Joe uttered. Teresa was told to quit talking rubbish. Teresa and Melissa got into a fight over the incident, and Melissa was dubbed a liar for attempting to defend her husband. "I don't lie." Melissa was adamant. Teresa said, "I don't want to talk to you, I want to talk to my brother." "Guess what, you disowned us today. How about you stop talking to my husband in that manner?" Melissa replied by spat. "You must calm down. You're ruining yourself," Joe said his sister in a cool manner. Louis piped in, "No, she's not," he said. In the meantime, Andy had had enough. He begged, "Just stop. Be quiet, Andy." Melissa was taken aback by Teresa's comment, to which she responded, "She's a gaslighting bitch." "What's wrong with her, you ask?" Melissa inquired. In an effort to keep the conversation going, Andy brought up Frank Catania, whose son Frankie had previously worked for Louis but no longer did. Dolores Catania interrupted Joe when he tried to add what Frankie had allegedly said to him. She said, "Joe, you and I have never had an issue." I said, "I don't want one." Melissa turned to Joe and said, "She doesn't want this tale talked about." Andy was left in charge of calming the uncomfortable tension. "This raises a lot of questions," he said in his conclusion. Then John Fuda, Rachel's husband, jumped at the chance to add his 2 cents. "I have an inquiry. Why did Louis and Teresa decide to involve the mother of my child in this? Why did you have me under investigation, guys?" he questioned, referring to Rachel's recent adoption of his son Jaden. Louis claimed, "I never had you probed." Joe Benigno, the husband of Margaret Joseph, stated, "You're lying. The buddies of Bo Dietl are subcontractors I know. You had me looked into." John held up a large envelope and said, "An eye for an eye. This is how we have fun. Don't involve my child in it." Andy pleaded with everyone to stop debating about whether or not Louis hired Dietl to look into the cast after another round of argument broke out. Production told him to wait, as there was a man below posing as Dietl's protection for Louis. Louis went on to explain that while Dietl is working on that harassment case for him, he didn't employ Dietl to look into the cast because he and Teresa had received death threats last week, which is why security was needed. But Teresa didn't waste any time in asserting that Margaret was speaking with this purportedly contentious party. She rolled her eyes. "Margaret. Great, okay, she replied. Louis responded, "Let's play," after Margaret insisted Teresa's assertions were untrue. "Take care. Do you mean to threaten us?" questioned Joe Benigno. At a later point in the gathering, Teresa accused Margaret of ruining the family. "She did, indeed." "Okay," Andy remarked. Joe Gorga even went so far as to refer to Louis as a woman abuser, to which Louis replied, "You're gonna regret this." "No s," Joe uttered. "I feel bad about it every day. Bro, it's not me." Joe then replied in English to Teresa's Italian statement with, "You broke my heart a long time ago." Melissa answered incredulously, "Oh okay," to Teresa. "You broke the family as a whole." Teresa said. Jacqueline has no reason to lie regarding her long-standing suspicion that Joe and Melissa were working together with her ex-husband Joe Giudis's former business partner. If we're being honest, she has no motivation to tell the truth, Rachel added offhandedly. Andy's ears surprised him. He then inquired as to who supposedly persuaded Joe that he could do better than Melissa, saying, "You suddenly standing for Jacqueline is like the joke of the century." When Andy questioned Teresa if she had stated it, she responded, "Never." Joe nodded in agreement but made it clear that Teresa's daughter Gia, 22, was the one who had said it to him. While the cameras were rolling, Teresa called her daughter to hear Gia's version of the tale. "Is she going to tell you lies?" "She is, of course," Joe answered. "I called him regarding the wedding saying that he should do the right thing, that Nana and Nano are looking down on them, and my mom wanted him to walk her down the aisle," Gia said when the phone was answered. "I never informed him he was capable of surpassing my Aunt Melissa, and it's unfortunate that you're trying to accuse me of lying." Zio Joe, why on earth would he ever make something like that up? In defense of Joe, Melissa inquired. Before breaking down in tears, Teresa responded, because he's married to you. This is scandalous. This is completely unacceptable. I simply cannot." "Disgusting," she continued as she stormed off the set. "Disgusting. Never in a million years would I raise my kids in this manner. You should be ashamed of yourself, Mommy and Daddy." "She feels ashamed," Melissa said. "And don't follow me," I said. Teresa cried out. "I just can't. He makes up lies about my daughter," Teresa said in the wings. "I don't want to reconcile with him. I want it to end. I've had it with him," Teresa reiterated. "Andy, he lied about Gia." When Andy walked backstage to see how she was doing, I was unaware that she was pleading with my brother to attend my wedding over the phone. Louis added his own justification. Gia remarked, "If I would have even said those words, it would have been like, you can do better for Mom in this moment. When we were conversing about it in the kitchen the other day, this can't be litigated over and over again. I believe we need to go outside and finish this because it is what it is and we are where we are," added Andy. But in the end, Joe came to the conclusion that it would be best to put this drama behind him and cut relations with his sister and Louis. He advised Louis, "The best thing to do is forget about me. I will forget about you." Louis merely said, "Goodbye," in return. After Andy had sent the men away, Melissa stated to Teresa, "I do love you, whatever you might think, and I'll go with the flow with whatever the family decides to do." Watch the third reunion installment of The Real Housewives of New Jersey in its whole, uncut form only on Peacock right now.